For August the 1st, 2014, we talk about EA's new subscription service, a little bit about Dark Souls 2 Crown of the Sunken King, and announce a huge announcement about Dennis. Welcome to the 70th level. My name is Kole Ross.
I'm David Maismith.
I'm Ben Merkel.
And you are listening to The Level. It's a podcast for people who love video games. Guys, it's been a huge week.
How huge?
It's been pretty great. One of the best episodes of Abject Suffering came out here recently, this week, the Dudes with Attitude episode, which is it's a saga of family, love, and loyalty. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm really confused about the metrics behind good episode of Abject Suffering. Like how to.
It's funny when we talk about like that's a really fun show to record because the premise ought to be like, oh gosh, this is shit. But fortunately, we just don't talk about the games at all. Seriously, Abject Suffering, it's really great. Yeah. Also, this got all of the Watch Out for Fireballs over to its own SoundCloud. We're moving the entire network over to that because our old host is in very bad finance. Guys, where's Dennis?
I thought he'd be around. We told him the time and place.
Yeah, I sent out my my text message. Let's see here. See if he responded back. Can't join you guys. Had baby. Both baby and mother are doing Oh, he had a kid.
Oh, yeah. That's so like him,
so
you know?
It begins.
God, it's just flimsy.
Classic Furia.
Did you just say, and so it begins?
Yes.
Yeah, I guess when he announced that, I did say that he ruined everything. so we're all dealing with that, I suppose. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations, Dennis, from everybody here at the level. Some of whom are family, and it's weird to lay on saying, "Oh, the show congratulates you" when we individually are. I'm not gonna dwell on the semantics of that any more than I have. How about this? Everybody who's listening, why don't you pop over to the Facebook group and tell Dennis congratulations? I really want an outpouring of support for him. So if I can draw your attention and focus you in that direction, go to facebook.com/thelevelpodcast and leave your thoughts and well wishes.
It's a nice silver lining for Earth.
Yes.
And the current state of things.
Oh yeah, no. I every time my phone bloops, I'm looking for the missiles. But hey.
Wait,
They're
I'm
on
now
you, Kole.
graduated to not being the crazy
I've talked about
crazy conspiracy theorist one.
David, it's not a conspiracy theory that there are missiles.
Well, yeah, I mean that the Ruskies are like eminently going to nuke us.
I don't really think. I don't even know if it's going to be the Ruskies. I guess what I'm saying is I don't get rid of my news. I don't get rid of my news, feeds or whatever, because I desperately want to know when the missiles are coming. Is that so much to ask?
No.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Ben. I knew one of you would be on my side.
That's all it takes.
Yeah. So because Dennis is with child. We don't have a multiplayer because I found out about it too late to put out a question. So it's going to be kind of a short episode this week, and we will see about when things are going to be back to normal, I guess. After all this, we never really had that conversation, did we?
Nope.
Okay, cool.
We don't plan ahead. That's not like us.
Yeah. Oh well. So, being that it is the episode that it is, why don't we do the brief and then the grind, and then hit it and go to sleep?
What are we gonna hit?
The show and then go to sleep.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I don't appreciate you trying to read dirty into that, so we'll talk about that on the break here over the sound effect.
I'm not. All right.
Okay, we're back. I'm happy we had that conversation, Ben. I think we're both better for it. So
yeah. We've grown a lot now.
Yeah, as people together. Oh, snaps for the Petro. All right. So it's time for the brief where we talk about things that are happening in this world, specifically regarding video games. Do either of you want to volunteer a story? Oh, so I guess I'll throw in on this. Yeah, so Electronic Arts saw that the PSN Plus kind of stuff and also the Xbox Live Gold subscription services were a pretty big deal, right? People seem to be excited about them. What's weird is it's a way for different like console manufacturers and people to just stay in the news on a monthly basis. Have you ever noticed that? Just like every news site at the beginning of every month is go download these games for free, and also you subscribe to this service.
I have not noticed this.
Oh,
but I don't download things.
Oh, okay. It's just strictly on a mail. You have stuff mailed to you.
I am principled against the idea of downloading apps.
Yes, it is a correspondence.
Mm-hmm.
It is a correspondence situation that you have going on. But anyway, Electronic Arts is all like, yo, that's some pretty cool action. And so they have their own service that they're running. It is Xbox One only. It is $5 per month. And it is a way for you to get access to all of their biggest Xbox One games. The specific article alludes to Battlefield 4, Peggle 2, FIFA 14, and Madden NFL 25, which I'm not quite sure. I mean, I guess it's going to come out in 2024, maybe. I don't know.
It's called 25?
Yeah. We never talked about that when it came out, but like they called it that because it is the 25th Madden game to come out. It's 25 years of Madden. I believe that might be the silver anniversary.
But they're just changing their numbering system, though.
I know. It's stupid.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's some real First Blood to Rambo 2 kind of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, not cool, though.
Yeah. Yeah, not great. Man, First Blood, that is a good movie. Brian Dennehy's in that. Yeah, so you don't need there was initially a misunderstanding that you had to have Xbox Gold to make this work, but apparently that's not the case. You need to have Xbox Gold to play those games online.
Yeah, but I mean, since they're EA games, you won't be able to successfully play them online anyway.
Well, you're going to have to. I mean, most of them will only play if you're. You know what? I can't. I don't even want to do that. It's barely even a joke anymore. Yeah, but that is Titanfall is excluded from this, so that's kind of a bummer.
Well, yeah, because that's a game someone might actually want to play.
I don't know. Like in their graphics here, they have Dragon Age Inquisition. Like that might be cool to hop up on for $5 and play and beat that in a month and be done with it.
That would be cool. I will give you that.
Yeah, unless that's not how it works. I can just see this being really, really exploitable. But haven't we kind of talked about how that would be great? Like this kind of thing, like just subscribe me to this stuff. Like if Humble Bundle said I will take $25 from your bank account every month, it will just give you all the games. I would probably sign up for that.
The Patreonization of games. No, that actually, yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. Just be like, I'm probably going to get most of what you get, most of what you put out. Like just today, they had like a Square Enix deal on the Humble Bundle store or whatever that is. They had like Murdered Soul Suspect for like $15, and I was like, yoink. Like the Steam on the Steam sale, it dropped to like 20, and I was like, nope, but 15, yoink.
That's the threshold.
Is my yoink threshold.
Actually, my threshold is anything over 70%. But let's continue.
I feel like though we're living in some sort of crazy world where MMOs are free and single player games are subscription.
Oh, topsy turvy, cats and dogs, left and right. No,
I really liked the idea of this. I really was a fan of not near the degree that Dennis was and is, but I was really a fan of like PlayStation's approach to this back before they kind of fairly reasonably, but kind of scaled it back for PS3 games. But
yeah,
and started charging for multiplayer.
Yeah.
Take or leave that. I don't know. Like how do you feel about this, Ben?
Oh, I think so. I think I'm not on board with subscription game service yet because I like to be in control of what I purchase. And
Yeah.
so I'm super sour grapes about PSN since I only did it for a month. The fact that the games that I had access to were taken away after that month. Yeah, I'm pretty sour grapes about that, I guess. So I prefer to buy something and then play it once and then have it as an artifact forever thereon.
Yeah.
See, that I can totally understand where you're coming from on that, although it a little bit surprises me simply because you tend to play games very quickly. I know for me, like, part of the reason I have some issues with it is, like, I'll be playing a game just, I'll beat it, like, a year later. Whereas it seems like you have a pretty good turnaround where, at least from an economic standpoint, it could make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I've been slowing down on that though too. So, yeah.
Sure.
Oh well.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I'm bothered by that too. I'm bothered by the idea that you're amassing a collection that isn't truly yours, or that is really contingent on you continuing to fork over that money. And I guess logically I should be afraid of this happening with Steam as well, just because my Steam account is just a list of games that I have permission to download and play as much as I want.
As long as the company is operational.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so if I'm playing this solely by logic, I would definitely, if I'm opposed to what PSN or EA are doing in this case, I should also be a little bit wary of Steam. However, so far over the course of the 10 years I've been using Steam, nothing has gone away.
So can you circumvent that though by just getting like a huge hard drive and just downloading all the games you have access to and putting them on that?
I believe you can. However, Steam is inherently Steam itself is DRM.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So when you load it up, it still has to phone home and validate and say, oh, you have permission to make that run.
I see.
And Valve has said several times in the past that if they were to go under, there would be a kill switch they could flip that would somehow make all of that better. And GOG has said something to a very similar effect. So I guess I have a little bit more faith in them. It's just weird because EA, Sony, and Microsoft kind of have a history of trying stuff and then abandoning it.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of the big thing for me. And this, earlier I was, a little bit being whatever about EA, but truly, EA and Microsoft have a history of screwing over consumers, whereas I feel like Valve does not.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's maybe part of the difference.
Yeah. Two thoughts occurred to me when you said that. EA has a history of just about once a year, they will shut off the servers for about, let's say, roughly 10 of their games from years past, relatively recently too. I mean, I have no idea how many people are playing NBA Street 3 or whatever, right? At the current moment, so it's not a huge tragedy that they go away. And the second thought that flowered off of that one, some kind of little insight blossom, was just the idea that this is a little bit of what people have been asking for, or what I've kind of thought would make sense for these sports games Madden or FIFA, which is make them a subscription model and just you get every year new rosters once the new teams come out and minor feature updates, because that's really all they've been anyway.
I feel like for me it's a little bit, some companies I trust to intelligently shut off servers, whereas some companies I don't trust to just be like, well, lots of people are playing this, but we're not making money, so it's off.
Yeah.
And I would say, no, I totally agree with the, just subscriptions for some of the sports games, stuff like that. Although I think in general, it strikes me as a little weird that even games like Call of Duty don't really get any real actual content, DLC or anything like that generally. I mean, I don't see why the Call of Duty games just don't have like new story missions like every month until the next one comes out.
I feel like that's less than accurate because what they do get is multiplayer DLC that you actually like. If you want to participate in the multiplayer ecosystem, then you absolutely have to, subscribe to that and get the season passes and whatnot, like the Call of Duty Elite. Yeah, to get those.
Yeah, but that's whole thing we could. I would disagree that that's comparable or even significant updates.
And I would say that, like, for what the majority of people who are playing Call of Duty are playing it for, that is far more significant than them getting another story mission.
I would actually agree with that, because you got to think every like map or whatever they spend like hours and hours in. So like even though it's like only 2 new maps, like that can be a big deal. So
I know I disagree, but I think that's part of that's maybe just different perspective, maybe kind of coming from a PC modding focused mindset. They're just selling me what should have been free,
even though it took people time to make it at the studio.
The problem is that people who weren't at the studio would have made it if they hadn't gone out of their way to make that impossible.
Oh,
I could see that argument.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. What's crazy about this is the pricing. So I'm looking at this release just a little bit closer. It's $5 per month or $30 per year.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
They're really trying to get people like in on that long-term commitment.
Yeah,
and I mean that's about at the price where I would just say like screw it. What I'm saying, I'll go in for the year.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm immediately going to what their ulterior motive for this might be. And I'm sorry for hanging on this for so long, but it's actually kind of fascinating. Are they going to count that as sales? That might actually be a way for them to try and wheeze the juice on their numbers. Is to be like, well, Dragon Age Inquisition or like this year's Madden sold like crazy more. Okay, do you mean sold or was automatically downloaded by somebody who paid $5 for it?
It's a sale.
I feel like
counts. Can't go away. La, 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 la. Investors, come over here.
In some ways, I feel like that might actually be a more healthy way to do it. In terms of I don't know, it just seems like with since we live in a world where apparently like Tomb Raider was a major sales flop, despite being very popular, I feel like it can't be worse than the current system they're using.
I suppose, but I would think like for the sake of like incentivizing development or even just like not being completely delusional about the success of their development efforts, actually getting numbers based on people making a conscious effort to go out and buy a thing, it might actually be more indicative of like people's passion and energy around what they're going to get if everything is going to be kind of the same. It's almost like the cable model almost.
Yeah
I don't know, this is weird. Like I feel comfortable a little bit with the console and platform owners doing this kind of thing because they also control their stores, whereas publishers who are like giving these inroads to their own particular things, that somehow crosses the line from like, hey, this is us providing a service to incentivize you using our platform, to hey, we really want you to play our games. And I say that second one, like by positioning those sentences that way, it sounds like I'm saying the second one is gross. I don't know that it is. It just seems like it comes from a different place.
I was going to say, you bring up an interesting idea. What if they switch video games to like a cable model service where it's like you pay a certain fee a month and then you get access to all the games by these publishers?
It's like
I guess you might You might do it on a yearly basis instead of a monthly basis, but
It's like the
Look
Sega
how
channel.
well that works for cable.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, cable's fundamentally broken because most of what you're paying for when you pay, like, you can't go a la carte on cable because that, like, if you could choose everything that you want, ESPN would be $8 and AMC would be $75 relatively. Or I forget, it might be the other way around. Basically, you have to get you have to buy cable channels in bundles like that because otherwise, like, less watch stuff just wouldn't exist. Right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that could be blossoming towards indie games, perhaps.
I suppose. Yeah. Huh. I guess I didn't think that all the way through.
Yeah, no, I wonder, you're talking about ulterior motives. I wonder if another one could be simply, maybe there's a certain degree to which they find that just if people play the games and like them and care about them, then they then, I don't know, buy NPCs. Yes, they buy NPCs. They buy DLC and merchandise and I don't know what else. Maybe there's some idea that just getting market penetration even at a loss is a good idea.
So it's almost like Spotify, where you just recognize that the actual product that you make doesn't make you any money at all. It's a way for you to raise awareness for stuff that might possibly be lucrative. And there's a hint towards that in another part of their pricing structure, which is members of the subscription service also get 10% off of DLC for whatever title is available on those. And also they're granted early access, like up to 5 days before a game comes out, to be able to play it. It's weird. I don't know. I feel like we've gone on for a little bit on that, so I'm going to ask if either of you have one you want to throw in.
All right. So Comic-Con is this week or this last week.
Yeah.
So it's a thing.
Hot scoops and teaser trailers here on The Level. Sorry.
That's right. And cosplay. But one of the things that was announced at Comic-Con was that Walking Dead Season 3, the video game, is confirmed. So it is going to be made. Huh. And this kind of piggybacks on episode 4 coming out last week, which I don't think we mentioned.
I believe it was mentioned in passing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which it's exciting for me because there's only 5 episodes, correct?
Correct, yeah.
So that means I'm 1 episode away from being able to play season 2. So
you recognize that you can get it anytime you want, right?
Yes, but if I start it now, I will not be able to beat it by tomorrow. So there we are. But apparently the story will continue even after the next one. So but it is not yet known whether or not Clem will be the lead character.
Yeah, that's a little, I don't know, it's a little spoilery.
I don't know.
It's somewhat fraught. However, I'm curious. We'll talk about it in the grind. I have thoughts on the way season 2 is panning out.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's good that Telltale has like a long plan associated with this. I can see. I almost wish that they would just do season 3 disconnected from everything, because what I would like, and was it Robert Kirkman came out and said something along the lines of The Walking Dead could feasibly go on forever.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it would just be, stories that rise and fall. Like, it's not, like in the comic book and in the TV show right now, it's still Rick and Carl's story. And so far in the video game, it's, been Lee and Clem. But like, somehow, if there was a way to pass the torch and just have, satisfying mini conclusions, just because everybody does die off, and effectively without those 2 people, there's not really a main character, or at least not like a really heavy reliance on one particular person. Like in the video game, it's necessarily the case that there's a main character because you have to have a point of view character, but they've shown that they're not afraid to, toss control over to somebody else if the narrative requires it. Right.
Yeah, this was something I suggested after playing season 1, was that they just leave that story untainted and just let it be the perfect thing that it is. So
yeah, I've been doing a fair amount of binge watching TV on Netflix, and I've come to the conclusion that there is a huge amount to be said for getting in, telling your story, and getting out.
Mm-hmm. Is there a particular show that brings that to mind for you?
I mean, shows that, two shows relatively recently that I felt like did that fairly well would be like Battlestar Galactica and Fringe. A show that is very clearly not doing that is, say, The X-Files.
That very clearly did not do that, especially after their main character left.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, the other one, I don't know, with Comic-Con, I was inspired to do a superhero kick and watch some of the superhero cartoons DC's been putting out.
Yep.
And pretty much all of them, most of them had ended up just getting canceled in the middle of like story arcs.
So they would leave it on a season cliffhanger and then it would just be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Do that to your audience.
That's what's great about Twin Peaks, actually.
Yeah. Part of it is apparently like most of these are like made for, well, I don't know how this works, but like Cartoon Network. And apparently Cartoon Network is notorious for just like, if numbers go down, you're just done, period. No, like, oh, we'll give you half a season to wrap things up. It's just axed.
Oh. Because they're kids. They don't care. They're just going to watch reruns over and over again.
Well, and it's especially been like some of the reasons for these I've looked into have been like really, really asinine. So like one of them, it was like it was canceled because it was about superheroes, but was successful with girls instead of guys.
Which one was that?
I think that was the most recent iteration of Green Lantern.
Huh.
It's like, heaven forbid that chicks like superheroes.
I'm surprised anybody likes the Green Lantern.
Huh. Yep. Ambiguous superpower.
Ryan Reynolds. Yeah. That's
I get to make a green thing.
Yes.
Anything. It's just green.
It's got to be green.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the power of creativity.
Do you think that the Red Green Show discriminates against colorblind people?
I don't know. Aren't the all right, whatever. I won't answer seriously. But could the Green Lantern, could he make like a green machine that produced red colored objects?
The universe would implode.
I don't think he can do red.
But it's
certainly can't do yellow.
It's one step away.
Yeah.
So like it's a green machine. He's making something green, but the thing that he's making will make something of a different color.
Well, what if he just made a green machine that went so fast that it redshifted?
I'm down with that.
Well, no. Can he make a green blade that when he cuts somebody, it causes red blood so red everywhere? Oh God, what's happening?
The blood, mother, the blood.
Sorry.
No.
So basically, what we're getting here is can the Green Lantern make something so green that even he cannot something?
Okay, that even he cannot will it.
Yes, we'll go with that.
I suppose. Yeah. Well, it's funny because there's another kind of Comic-Con announcement related to stuff leaving before it really ought to have. In a lot of people's minds, myself included. The entire Firefly cast is returning for Firefly Online, which I guess is a thing still. That seriously, that shit's been in development for like 7 years.
What is it?
So it's a Firefly MMO insofar as it takes place in the Firefly universe, and the entire cast has confirmed that they're coming back to voice their original characters.
The entire cast?
Has one of them passed?
Well, if you count the movie as canon.
And I do. Yeah, no, they've actually confirmed that Alan Tudyk is coming back to voice several characters. So, yeah.
Okay.
And don't yell at me for spoiling. That movie is 10 years old.
It should also be disregarded.
Really?
Yeah, well, whatever. That's a side conversation.
Okay, Firefly opinion cast. I like the movie.
That's good.
Okay, cool. As long as everybody knows what I like. Oh man, that Kaylee, she's darling. But that is another kind of announcement. I don't hold out hope for that game being any good, but evs.
Yeah,
if it makes people happy.
So since we're not really talking about, well, okay, never mind. Sorry, David, what were you going to say?
I hope that if it's not good, at the very least, it's not good in the way that the Matrix MMO was not good. By which I mean, at least they threw a Hail Mary and went for it.
True. Yeah, some of the stories that came out of the Matrix Online are pretty interesting, but
yeah.
Some of this, like just the actual like GM'd events were kind of nutso.
Yeah, they were completely crazy.
Yeah, Ben, it sounded like you were leading up to something.
I was going to totally tangent away from video games. I was going to make fun of us for not talking about video games, but we were actually talking about video games, so I didn't want to do that.
Okay, cool. Whatever. I don't care how this show goes.
Okay, all I was going to say is Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog was filmed in 6 days, and I just found that out this last week. That's pretty
impressive.
And they've been supposedly working on the sequel for the entire time since then.
Oh man, they kind of wrote themselves into a corner, but okay.
No, that's what I'm looking forward to for the sequel. It's the fact that
yeah.
how they resolve that. Yeah, I mean, so what they're working with is the reverse or the inverse of you have a lifetime to record your first album, but 6 months to record your second.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, David, you got a story?
No.
Okay, attaboy.
Moving along.
No, I'm to this weird thing where like not much is happening on PC land, and the world has basically moved on to the new consoles. So
you realize that the government doesn't bar you from looking at news about systems you don't own, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, you can find. I don't own an Xbox One, but I said that thing about EA, right?
Yeah,
I'm not here to tell you how to.
That makes me much more likely to buy a new console, which I would be very irresponsible for me to do right now.
True. What kind of willpower are you working with?
Not much.
Okay.
Yeah, when you're in grad school, any distraction is a good distraction.
Yeah,
but not a good distraction.
Like
actually,
an effective distraction. You mean?
Yeah.
Any distraction is an effective distraction. Oh yeah, I dig.
Word.
Grind it up.
Yeah.
The grind.
Now it's time for the grind, where we talk about the games that we have been playing. Do you guys mind if I lead?
Please.
Okay.
Lead with authority.
I will lead with authority. So we mentioned this in passing last week, that it came out and I was not able to play it because I was setting up this shiny new audio interface that I got. That again, you are hearing. Each of us is on our own track. There's going to be substantially less overtalk in this episode because, hey, I can edit that out now. Pretty cool. But rather, the DLC for Dark Souls 2 came out.
Oh.
And boy, howdy, you guys, it is really good.
Is it dark?
Yes, it is dark and it is soulsy. And it sounds like I'm joking about that, but it really does feel like a return to form. So you guys are probably thinking, hey. To which I respond, are you Harry Carey? But you're probably thinking, hey, don't you have a show for that game to talk about that game? You know what? We're not going to get to talking about the DLC in depth for like a couple months or so. So I feel comfortable that it is a new release. So here we are. You're going to have to grin and bear it, fellas and folks. Okay. So when I say that it does feel very much, like Dark Souls, I mean, it feels like Dark Souls 1. Dark Souls 2 is a very good game, but it lacks something that is really charming about the first one, and that is the way that the world kind of fits together with itself.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Kind of the eco thing.
Yeah, definitely. Just the notion that oftentimes within one level you have a line of sight to another, or you will feel like you're hopelessly lost, and it's been a long time since you've seen a bonfire. But through a long path and after a lot of fighting, you actually find that you've gotten back to a familiar place through a circuitous route, or you've unlocked some kind of shortcut that will get you, to that'll substantially make your life a lot easier. That's something that was lost in Dark Souls 2 to a large extent for two reasons. One, it definitely takes a more Demon Souls like hub and spoke model to everything. Like once you pick a path, you're kind of headed out in a straight line from that, and nothing really doubles back on itself. And as a result, it is far less vertical. And second, you can warp between bonfires. So instead of being, marathons, it's kind of short sprints through very difficult areas, with like a lot less, at risk if you die, right? Just because it's going to be a lot easier to recover the ground that you've lost. So this Crown of the Sunken King DLC, it's really heartening, especially if they're going to continue this level of quality or this kind of thing through all three pieces of DLC that are going to come out, because it definitely does return to that folded in on itself, very tangled up level design, and it actually does something that's really new for the series, which is put in puzzles.
Ooh.
In almost like a Zelda type fashion, insofar as there are like straight up glowing stones that you hit that rearrange the levels around you. And I don't want to spoil stuff that comes a lot later in the content. However, it definitely brings some of the trap kind of things of later areas in Dark Souls 1 to the fore in some really kind of interesting and cool ways.
How do you feel about the puzzle integration?
I like it a lot, actually, just because it flexes a muscle that Dark Souls never really asked you to flex before. And, you're considering your environment in a different way. So, like, when you are used to Dark Souls, you approach each environment looking for possible areas of danger and places and ways you can navigate the space that will give you an advantage in any kind of potential fight, right? So the way they vary up kind of the topography is by giving you more or less room to navigate in a particular area with more or fewer enemies and more or fewer kind of latent threats, whether that's drops, whether that's like pools of acid or sources of poison, spikes, et cetera, and you get so used over the course of hundreds of hours of gameplay to evaluating spaces just solely based on that when you approach this and realize, oh, this actually is like Zelda and I'm changing the levels of things, you're kind of shaking cobwebs off of that part of your brain, and it forces you to look at the world in a way that's like, okay, I see an item and I know I'm going to have to manipulate the switches to do that. Like, what kind of combinations do I have to do of these different switches to execute that, while also keeping in mind that each switch that I flip might actually like raise a platform that has something that will kill me in one shot. Yeah.
I feel I don't know. From the sound of it and my limited knowledge of Dark Souls, it sounds like it almost cheapens it, though, because like, say you see something in a hard to get region in the first Dark Souls, that there's going to be a way for you to get there just by traversing the map, but like now it seems like you could just chalk up every hard to get to area as, oh, I just need to set the water level to this to swim up to that level, something like that.
Not even that, because none of the solutions are that simple, I've noticed.
Okay.
Like, and it very much is a Dark Souls like difficulty curve up to that, right? So there's going to be one easy to get item that you can get from that, just to like show you that this is a possibility, like just to kind of teach you, okay, this is the way that this works. But all the rest of them, kind of play to the rules, right?
Okay.
So I haven't noticed, like that there is still stuff that I haven't been able to get that I can see. It's just a matter of trying to figure it out. And that has very much been the case for a lot of things, like, just a great deal of the errata from the second season of Bonfireside Chat, rather, or the current season of Bonfireside Chat, is like, oh, that thing you said you couldn't get to, you just had to do X, Y, and Z through hidden doors and, around these areas that you just hadn't explored in 2 or 3, runs through the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. David, you had something in there?
Oh, I guess, kind of a similar question to what Ben said. I mean, I tend to default kind of to not wanting to mix my peas in my porridge or whatever, in terms of I don't like puzzles in my action games usually. Mm-hmm. I think maybe part of that is like when I hear that, I innately think of like, back when everything had to have box puzzles. Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'd say is, does it get away from that to where it just seems like the puzzles seem like a drag on the action?
No, it really doesn't.
Right.
just because it does, like it adds enough variety to it. Like none of it feels compulsory. If that makes any sense, it didn't succumb to that creative entropy, which says, okay, well now this is here. Now we have to do every cliche surrounding this.
Okay.
It feels like, and it adds just enough texture. Now, granted, we could get to the second and third pieces of DLC, and it's just kind of more of this shit. But like, if this is a one-off gimmick for this area, like something that was endemic to this kingdom, because the premise around these pieces of DLC is you're going to these kingdoms that the king of the main content in Dark Souls 2 has, that he conquered, and kind of seeing what happened to those. If this is something that is just the way this area was laid out, that is super cool. If we get to the rest of it and it's like, okay, and everything else is, trying to figure out, how to get line of sight to this switch to hit, that'll be kind of butt. However, they've been very good about varying up the gimmicks of the rest of the areas, right? So, like, the gutter is incredibly dark, and you've got, specific areas that are heavy on curse, and, there's pretty much an area that relies on every particular, both hazard and status effect. So I could totally see them varying it up. Like all this does is tell me that they have more ideas that they can comfortably try out in these standalone areas, as opposed to like, them hitting this and then running out of steam.
Sure. And that seems promising. I mean, yeah, that seems promising. I suppose if nothing else, you just get on the wiki and look up the solutions.
Yeah. And it's a matter of like, I haven't had to do that yet, so that's pretty cool. The bosses are hard though. I think the bosses are maybe a skosh too hard. However, the character that I'm playing at probably isn't at, like, I'm probably a little bit early in this run to go at it, so I may need to come back later.
Sure. Would you say, does it feel like too hard from just like a raw like stats thing? Or from, like, the things they're asking you to do aren't reasonable, or kind of...
I feel like I can be sufficiently vague with this, insofar as the first boss encounter that you go after, it kind of hits you by surprise in a way that other boss fights don't.
Okay.
And there's just, like, way too many of them. Also, the second boss fight, which is as far as I've gotten, it splits your attention in kind of unfair ways. And when I say unfair, okay, I mean like just it feels like way too much. It feels like way too much to take on your own, which is fine because a lot of the bosses in this series are designed around co-op. See, Ornstein and Smo. However, summoning somebody in also makes the fight substantially harder in ways, that are different than the previous Dark Souls boss fights, which is like, oh, if you summon somebody in, they're going to rebalance the fight by giving the boss more HP. Whereas this actually, like, it's a summoner and she summons in, different people depending on who you have with you.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's probably my only complaint, is that it's, just a little bit too hard, compared to what I would expect. However, looking back historically, the Artorias of the Abyss DLC was a pretty big step up in difficulty as well. And usually that complaint or that grouse goes away with time as you kind of get over it.
Sure.
Yeah. As you slowly memorize all the movesets.
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Yeah. Any other questions about that?
Nope.
Cool. The other thing I've been playing, which I can't actually talk too much about, just because of the nature of it, I also went in and chiefed the Walking Dead 2, or the Walking Dead Season 2, Episode 4, in one go.
Oh.
Which I say that like it's an achievement. It's only like an hour and a half.
All right, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like for me that is a long play session.
Yeah.
However, I played that. I don't know about the choices that they're making with this season.
Okay.
And go ahead.
I was going to say, can you mention it without being specific?
Yes.
Or can you analyze it? Yeah.
Yes, I definitely can. And I'm cognizant that, you are probably going to play it even if I take a shit on it. And even like in the context of games as a whole, it's probably okay. However, like I just kind of feel like a lot of the stuff that's happening doesn't have as much punch as it did in season 1. And that is something of an unfair comparison, because season 1 had just a tremendous amount of punch. However, it kind of felt like where they were at in episode 4 of season 1, they kind of earned a lot of the tension that was around that. Like the way that that episode 4 kind of climaxed and the things that happened there, really felt like it was setting you up for like to really get hyped for the last episode, even if the last episode was really short and slight compared to the previous ones or whatever. Like that I feel kind of shitty for complaining about the length of that, but just like it left you in like in a heart pounding place. Season 2, it kind of feels like they're trying to cash in on stuff that really didn't build up or earn possibly the level of emotional pathos they were hoping it would have by this point. And that could be, like on paper, any number of these things are pretty, devastating as they are in The Walking Dead. That is that is the course of action that these things are going to take. You're going to feel loss, right? It could be because of writing, it could be because of characterization or inconsistency in the way things are portrayed, or, even down to like the acting. Like I can't pinpoint any one of them that is spectacularly fallen short. But I just don't know. And it might just be because like the central theme around season 1 was, Lee seeking redemption by being a father figure a little bit. Does that make sense? And like you had that, that relationship between Lee and Clem, at the very least, no matter what happened around them, you had that. And in the absence of that, I'm not quite sure what the emotional core of this season is supposed to be. And it's pretty bad if the season is about to close, and I don't know what that is. Granted, benefit of the doubt, it very much could be a case where they completely pull it all together and give me something that like makes the previous stuff add up to more than I think it's adding up to right now. But it just kind of like it's hitting like a wet punch a little bit, like bleh.
So it's not punchy.
Yeah. It's got no pop. Yeah,
I see.
Am I making sense? Am I like, or am I a crazy person?
No, I'm just thinking of the adjective punchy now.
You can't punch all the zombies. It's just not effective.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying. And I appreciate you not mentioning any details of it. But I don't know. I mean, as you said, I'm going to play it no matter what, I think. But do you know when episode 5 comes out? Is that in? This can be looked up.
They haven't announced it yet. They've been averaging about like once every 6 weeks.
Okay. So once that comes out, I will get back to you. And
yeah, for sure. I would recommend. Have you played 400 Days?
I have not.
You have not. I would recommend nab grabbing that as well. Just because it is an effective bridge between the two.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, David. Do you have thoughts
on anything?
I was curious. You've been very silent about this.
It's too painful. Now, honestly, The Walking Dead is sort of a miss for me. I don't particularly like zombies, and I don't particularly play my games for emotion. I tend to play my games for relaxing by blowing stuff up. So, I'm kind of in a situation where, although I've a great amount of respect for the series, I don't really care about it that much.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Seems fair.
Yeah, you can like understand something, but also understand why it's not for you.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I do have to say, like, I feel like some of this was probably almost inevitable, just because, like, when the first one was, from what I understand, one of the best written, most emotional games ever made. The fact that, they're going to have trouble following that, and particularly following it with a direct sequel, it almost seems a little inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like, this is just setting a precedent that you can't live up to.
Yeah, I mean, just by the nature of it. And, sequels are almost, I mean, look at...
Uncharted 2. Street Fighter 2.
They're
terrible.
Yeah. One thing I would say, actually, though, is, sometimes in games like these, it seems like the first game. I'm thinking for games I like, particularly of the Stalker series, where it very much the first game told the main interesting story they wanted to tell, and then the later games kind of played off of that story, but could never be the story. Does that make sense?
Uh-huh.
Does it feel like, is there any of that in this?
No, good.
I was going to say, I have a question about the soccer games. Was it like different characters with the additional stories, or was there any sort of intersection between them, or was it just kind of reference to like the main game from the side missions?
Well, basically what it was is the main game is like everything in Chernobyl, like in this alternate history, like Crazy Space Chernobyl, everything coming to a head and just things getting whatever. And then the games after that, one was a prequel, and so it was leading up to everything being crazy and climactic, and so it was kind of boring. And then the third game in the series was a sequel, and it was a thing where the main story of like why the zone's there and what it's supposed to be for and stuff had already taken place, and it just kind of dealt with the aftermath and the ramifications.
Okay.
So
yeah, it very much is a continuation of the story. I mean, pretty much. Even just looking at the fact that you're playing as Clementine, who was a character from the first, like it's very much a passing the torch kind of thing.
Do they explore any new like ideas, or I don't know? I mean, is it the same sort of story as episode 1, where it's like you meet people die, things get tough, that sort of thing? Like, do they? I don't know. Do they do anything different in season 2?
Like broad. I mean, just speaking in as broad of a term as possible. It, like a lot of it's hinges around like what does it mean to have a group in this kind of situation, and how does it adversely or positively affect you to kind of bring the past with you into those situations with with a group of people, and kind of what's the effect of trust on that. And the thing is, like, that's pretty similar to what happened in number 1 with Lee trying to act successfully as a diplomat in a lot of ways while also hiding his past as a murderer,
Yeah.
and just like what effect that has on you. At the very least, that continued, or that had the whole father-daughter thing working towards it, or surrogate father, surrogate daughter aspect. Yeah.
So there are no new themes in the new game, is what you're saying.
I mean, it like, because you have a history. God, it is so hard not to get into specifics.
I see.
Yeah.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah. Like anything that is new, or has a very strong link to the old, I can't say without giving away things that I know you are going to, and everybody would appreciate being exposed to fresh the first time.
Sure. Yeah.
So I would feel shitty blowing up that spot.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like some of this is maybe to a certain degree inevitable from the zombie genre, in that it's a genre that's all about war of attrition.
Yeah.
So, kind of the point of the zombie genre is that it can never end other than just having everyone die.
Possibly. I mean,
or the zombies die like in 28 days later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
or do they 28 weeks later?
I mean, it seems to me that like most zombie things, the thing that makes the zombie apocalypse like unique is the idea that the entire world is zombies and that there's nowhere you can go and you can never kill them all, and just it's kind of, and it seems like it innately trades on nihilism.
A hopeless situation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very specifically, like the purpose that zombies serve in Walking Dead in general, and also in the video game, and the main crew, or the lead guys on Walking Dead season 1 have talked about this on the Adult Thumbs podcast. Especially here recently, they didn't talk about the game for a while, but just the idea that the zombies are there to drive things forward. Right. No matter what happens, nobody can really give up, because they're, the zombies are always going to be right behind them, either going after them or giving them a reason to want to protect somebody that is close to them. And that is both at the macro level and at a scene level, where if something slows down or if there's something that needs to move things forward, then the zombies are introduced. And that is borne out A, in the comics, and B, in the TV show as well. Right.
Yeah, I guess maybe what I'm saying is it seems like a zombie fiction and mainline zombie can never kind of do like the stand type of plot, where it eventually becomes about society rebuilding and sort of has some sense of progression.
Mm-hmm.
So like the story can be about a group of survivors and group dynamics, but the only way that group can never end is everyone dies.
That's untrue for the again. It's so hard not to talk in spoilers.
Sure.
Yeah. Number 1, there is a new theme introduced in 2, which kind of plays to that in season 2, that plays to that hopelessness angle. But I don't want to speak any more than that. So it does address like what happens, just like when somebody suffers personal loss, that is kind of extrapolated out into recognizing the situation as a whole, and arguing who is deluding who, or who actually is kind of trying to fool themselves by thinking about it in different terms, whether fooling themselves into thinking it's hopeless, or fooling themselves into thinking like, oh, there is a way out of this that doesn't involve either being bitten or swallowing a bullet. In the comics, relatively early on, and by that I mean like pretty much like right when they find the prison, which is about midway through the first omnibus. or compendium or whatever verb comics use, compendiumize. Pretty much in the first big collection, there's a point where they're just kind of like walking around and lackadaisically killing the zombies through a fence, because they found a prison and they're fortifying it, and they just have a conversation, which is a little bit like the writers talking to themselves, saying, "Doesn't it kind of seem like the zombies just aren't an issue anymore? we've just kind of recognized that they're a force of nature, and we just kind of deal with them on their terms, right?" So sure. Especially in the comics and where it's at right now, the primary the primary conflict is kind of these larger governments, quote unquote, going against each other, or these like settlements, which are inside very much just like safe havens, where there are people who are essentially the military keeping everything out, and then fighting with each other to try and secure resources. And sure. The zombies are pretty much just weapons or kind of like tactical considerations within that. And the and the stuff that is and pretty much any real danger that is presented to somebody, be it a main character or any of the individuals, is somebody else who is working for an opposite faction. So I like
zombies are like bears and wolves.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, and
bears and wolves that used to be your friends.
That's a pretty reasonable way to handle that.
Yeah. So I mean, and I think that's true for any kind of like genre like that, where the conventions is like the really interesting stuff is going to subvert it.
Sure.
Which is the most obvious statement to make, but I feel like I need to say it just in the face of like, oh, not every zombie narrative needs to shake out that way, right? And I'm totally over zombies as well. I think that it's by and large kind of dumb, but
it's a dead genre.
A little bit.
Kettle of fish.
Yeah. So that's what I've been playing, guys. Who wants to go next?
So, well, I guess segue off of zombies. I've pretty much been predominantly been playing Resident Evil.
Which one?
6.
Oh, okay.
Resident Evil 6. I think I mentioned last time I had beaten Leon and Helena's campaign. I had just started Jake and Sherry's.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now I believe we have one more chapter in Jake and Sherry's campaign. I was hoping to finish it before this podcast so I could discuss that as a whole, but didn't quite make it there. But I don't know. They definitely go for a different tone with this one. It's this campaign's much more kind of action movie like.
Mm-hmm.
I think most notably, like, there's a sizable portion of it that is just a like motorcycle chase.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm really enjoying playing as Jake. I really enjoy just punching pretty much everything as my verb of choice.
His mid weapons.
Yes. And I don't know. I feel like it's really well done. I'm really hoping that the next Resident Evil game is just like Double Dragon Zombie Edition, starring Jake.
Yeah.
I think that's unlikely, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I think that of all of them, the Jake campaign holds up the best because of because it definitely does swing back and forth between two extremes. A is punching people off of motorcycles, but the other one is kind of those more tense scenes with what's the name, Javo or whatever. The nemesis figure, right? The one big undead who was kind of sent out trying to hunt down Jake and Sherry, right?
Well, and the funny thing is, there's actually a second like mini one of those when you're in the place, and there's a chainsaw dude that does the same basic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that one has some good moments. I think particularly there's one where you're on a ship trying to get where you're going.
Yeah.
And he's underwater, and you can see he kind of glows, so you can see that, and you can tell like he's kind of setting off these traps to try to take out your ship as you're sailing around. But it almost becomes like a mini Jaws segment.
Dun, dun.
Exactly. So the other thing I think is, I mean, on the whole, it's corny, but I feel like the chemistry between Jake and Sherry is at least entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of a little nemesis, like an unstoppable force, but who's really tiny and kind of cute. You know,
He's a little guy.
Yeah,
Like Marvin the Martian. Oh, I'm very angry. Yeah.
So I do we as discussed with Jala, though, I have seen noticed a couple of motifs. One being that Jake and Cherry get captured a lot.
Yeah.
Which seems weird, especially considering that, at least on paper, they're probably the two most powerful characters in this game.
Yeah. Like narratively, they're the most interesting because they both resemble and defy their lineage. You know,
that's true.
Just because Jake is Wesker's son and, you know, Sherry is William's daughter, you know, and if you have any history with the series, you recognize the significance of those two figures, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that's a little bit unfortunate for me is I picked up some of Wesker from 5. Sherry, Jala pretty much straight up had to explain that background.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's probably something someone who had played all the games would get more out of, although I've still enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's funny that she straight up has plot regeneration.
Yeah.
By which I mean she can regenerate from any wound as long as it doesn't happen in actual gameplay.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that didn't bear out in the gameplay, actually, because I mean, like, each character has a little bit something, you know, special to them, right? Especially if they're AI controlled. And so if her thing was just like, oh, it takes a lot for her to die, okay, cool. But
right,
yeah, her involvement actually justified one of the more frustrating things about the game to me, which was that shooting off enemies' limbs just caused them to rapidly regenerate and, you know, just become more dangerous depending on what you shot off, which I thought was just a way for them to extend the length or add a little bit of like just kind of like unseemly difficulty. But then I realized, oh, everything you're fighting is like this crazy G-virus monster, and that is pretty much bored out, or like the extrapolated version of what if Birkin, you know, whatever Birkin had was more widespread, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. I like from a mechanic standpoint, I kind of like those monsters. Partially because the martial arts stuff can subvert that a little bit. As long as you keep beating someone up, the mutations will never actually work.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I felt like a number of them were a little bit ridiculous, particularly the characters that would mutate into these giant monsters but keep their guns and keep shooting at you.
Yeah.
So you know the kind of drider ones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the other motif we noticed that's kind of weird is, I think by this point in the story, every major character, including some of the bad guys, have saved Sherry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a little gross.
That's actually why I was wondering, like, is it just me, or does that seem a little weird?
You know, it is. I don't know that it's weird. It's hard even to call it gross. I think that I'm more settled on calling it potentially lazy.
Sure. Yeah.
Does that seem fair?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I don't know. Ben, you straight up haven't played RE6, right? Have you?
Nope.
Okay.
I just imagine Chris Redfield's story being like, it's my time to uppercut the biggest boulder in all of China. It's in China, right? Yeah.
Part of it is.
And like the entire time you're playing as him, there's just a giant boulder on the horizon and you're constantly fighting your way to get there.
Yeah. It's like Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Or it's like Half-Life 2. You can always see the boulder
It's like Journey.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's man, Chris's campaign, like far be it for me to question Jala or the person who is walking you through this. But I doubt the wisdom in doing Chris's last, because that is definitely the weakest link in my opinion.
The reason I did that is apparently that's the order I'm doing it is the order the developers recommend.
Huh.
And I would say, from what I've seen, I think that sort of makes sense from a story standpoint, in that I felt like, again, at least from what I've seen, like, Leon and Helena seems to be kind of, well, to a certain degree, some of the core storyline of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and then, now playing through Chris and Sherry, that seems to fill in a lot of the in addition to Chris and Sherry, Jake and Sherry, in addition to his plot arc, it seems to fill in kind of a lot of the background details.
Yeah.
And then, at least from what I've observed, it seems like Chris, to a significant degree, does a lot of just holding all the other things together. It seems like he tends to show up when the other storylines need him to a certain degree. So I can understand from a storyline standpoint. It almost seems kind of, it's kind of like the question of like how do you if someone has never seen Star Wars before, what series or what order do you show them so as not to not to reveal that Vader is Anakin,
Okay.
That sort of thing.
First off, in that situation, you are dealing with Brendan Fraser from Blast from the Past. Honestly,
Wait, what?
You are dealing with somebody who has lived their life in a fallout shelter with Christopher Walken and the mom from that '70s show.
Oh no, I was thinking more like kids.
Oh
yeah. When Fury when it falls to him to
say, Luke, I am your father.
Exactly.
Yeah. Huh. Now I'm curious.
So that I agree. Like, it seems like Chris is likely going to be the weakest one from like a gameplay and raw storyline, but I can understand. So far, I've liked the order that I've learned the plot points in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And what I will say is, Ada's chapter is crazy because it ties everything together, but it ties it together with the most absurd, like, just batshit bow it can possibly get.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is the first game I've I guess 5. I've only played 5 and a fairly little bit of 4, and this is the first game that I've played that Ada's been in, and in general, her character just seems kind of random.
Yeah, that's by design in that particular game. in 6, they're definitely playing with her as a villain. Guys, I feel real bad because I said the mom from that '70s show was the mom in Blast from the Past. Actually, it was Sissy Spacek.
Close one. Way to save time for our corrections department.
There we go. Yeah, I'm just trying to get out ahead of this. I am the mayor of wrong. However, some things will not stand. Oh. Any final thoughts on Resident Evil 6 for this week?
No, I think that's the most of it.
Mm-hmm. Anything else, David?
One other small thing. I Download Defiance since it's now free to play. It's a open world first third person shooter based off of a sci-fi series. It's really weird game to like say whether it's good or not. I would say like it makes a very strong statement for like the general idea of just running around and shooting things being fun, like in an open world, very, kind of MMO setting. I think the best description, I read a review that kind of compared it to a theme park game in that it's a game that you probably should play, but you should play it until you get bored and then not feel bad about never playing it again.
Huh. This is Tryon Worlds' follow-up to Rift.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ben, you were going to say something?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, I just said that's fair. I feel like that's its own genre, like Destroy All Humans, Just Cause, Saints Row. I feel like all those games are like that as well.
Yeah, which is like play it until it stops being fun and then don't.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like it supports that. There's not a lot of depth to it. But at the same time, like it does a lot of nice things, like you within the first hour of a game get a vehicle that you can drive around.
Yeah.
You pretty early on, like I'm not far in the game at all, and I have like access to rocket launchers and grenade launchers and all sorts of random weapons. So I feel like it does a good job of not hiding any of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I've not actually seen, to be fair, I've not actually seen the show on Sci-Fi that goes with it. It seems like people like the show fairly well. So
I really just like had a fit here because I had no recollection of what Defiance was. Keeping in mind that like for a little bit, this was all you heard about. Was the idea that this was like one of those, okay, we're going to make a multimedia empire out of releasing an MMO and a television series, both of which are, on their own are things that presume a certain level of interest. And the idea of we're going to try and get you to care about both these things at once is incredibly corporate douchey. So like I just remember thinking, holy God, that I'm going to forget about that thing in 2 years. And well, guess what? Here we are.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I would say the most positive thing I'd say for it though is I feel like the game sort of knows its place in that, like, I feel like it does a good job of being like, here's the cool characters you probably like from the show. We're going to throw you in the mix with them, with the goal being that, like, when you watch this show, you have some, and this, another thing that kind of went along with the review discussing kind of the theme park theme. The idea that basically what accomplishes is when you then watch the show, you feel like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. That was cool. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I guess I'd say the MMO is topping for the show, not the other way around or standalone, maybe.
Yeah. Like playing this, can you see ever paying a monthly subscription for this?
No, it's part of it is it's a little clunky. I mean, I hate to say this because it's something that, is almost innately, has very negative connotations. But, if you've played like free-to-play shooters, it has that feel in that, it's a little bit too arcadey. Like the first-person shooter mechanics aren't strong enough. So, like every hit scan weapon pretty much ends up being an assault rifle, even if it's supposed to be, like a submachine gun, or, there's no real difference between, say, like any semi-automatic. You know what I mean? It's just not quite good enough, but I don't regret playing it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Do you see yourself continuing to carry along with it?
I think it's one that I think it's one of those games that I'm going to like, every day, like play for an hour just to kind of get my fix, and then not play for like a couple months and then come back for a weekend and just do that. Like, it's one of those games that I think I'm going to play off and on just because it is sort of fun, but I don't think it has real staying power.
Yeah. I gotcha. Do you guys want a piece of Blast from the Past trivia?
Please.
In keeping with the theme that the late 90s are a new world for the Webbers, the main characters are named Adam and Eve.
That's quite subtle.
When Mr. Weber first goes back up after 35 years, he meets a transvestite prostitute who says to him, like the song says, a country boy can survive. The song he was referring to was A Country Boy Can Survive by Hank Williams Jr.
Boo.
Okay.
Are you booing me or IMDb?
Blast from the Past.
Okay, cool.
But then indirectly, the other two.
It's like a chain effect.
Sorry, dude.
I'll be honest, I've never heard of Blast from the Past before.
It is a very bad movie. Oh.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on Defiance?
No.
Okay. Ben, how about you?
So this would have been if like the order were completely reversed, both like and who presented things and the games which they presented, I would have an awesome segue right now.
Oh.
But as it is, whatever.
Are you're trying to get me to like say, oh, you played Dark Souls?
I did.
Cool.
I did because you started watching The Wire, so I feel like I had to man up.
Okay.
So I tried it. I also listened to a Bonfire Side Chat, which I made that my unofficial Dark Souls Sherpa. But so currently I'm in the Undead Burg.
Okay.
Which is like beginning of the game, essentially. There's like small teensy boss, not even a boss, but a teensy dude that you fight before that, between that, whatever.
Yeah.
But so, I walked around, I stabbed things a lot. And then I got to, I don't know if it's a boss or not, but he has a health bar, like a big one at the top of the Undead Burg, on the bridge.
You're referring to the tourist demon.
Yeah, that one.
As opposed to the tourist demon that just wears tacky clothes and takes pictures.
He blinds you with his camera, yeah.
Weak spot is his fanny pack. He's got to get in there and take his golden treasure.
All right.
What?
Nothing.
I was trying to make that into a bit. Don't stop at my bit.
Sorry, dude. That would be a good improv.
The rules are yes and. We only have two rules on the show.
Yes, he is a tourist, and yes, he has gold in his fanny pack because he's a smelter, and he's on whatever. Shut up. I'm directing that to myself to shut up. But yeah, so I'm fighting a tourist or whatever, but not the cool mathematical one. The lame fantasy
You're not
one.
fighting a space donut.
Yep, not doing that. Yeah. Okay, so here's my grievance with the game. Here's my complaint. I have what is it? I have a beef to pick with you, Kole. Yeah. I'm gonna say that. Yeah. So I was listening to the podcast talking about like how to defeat the enemy, and like you're kind of going through a list of options that the player would have. You're talking about the feasibility of a crossbow. You're talking about one of the options was to take all the clothes off of the character and like climb up the ladder, have him follow you up, jump down, have him jump down. He loses a little bit of health and you don't, maybe?
No.
Okay. I didn't get that strategy then.
The strategy would be to they have that archery tower behind you, and they make the enemies who are on top of it shoot you, to let you know that you can get up there and kill those guys. The idea being you would climb up there, and then as he approaches that tower, do a falling attack on him,
Wait,
which
that's
would do
not
a lot.
how everyone beats him.
Well, that's a primary way to beat him.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's a pretty big one. Yeah. Do the falling attack. Like, and they signpost that pretty well because falling attack is pretty much mandatory on the first boss when you first encounter him by doing that drop down. Yeah.
See, I played that first one so long ago that I had forgotten all about that.
Yeah.
I did climb up the tower and I did kill the archers, and I got the bow thing, but this was like my 10th try just to get there, and yeah. So I mean, I explored the area pretty well. I killed a bug that was shiny.
Oh yeah, the geckos.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they give you upgrade materials that you can't really use right now.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings about it because I really don't like the fact that I have to like do things over and over again because I guess I'm lazy with respect to video games.
And
I don't know.
Here's an honest question: Do you find yourself getting better at those runs?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because the point that you should be working towards is being able to get from bonfire to boss as quickly as possible. Insofar as like, especially, those early run or those early game things, you don't really have to fight every enemy once you know once you know what they are. So like eventually the runs become negligible in terms of like the amount of time that they take up in your experience. However, I will say that if that is something that bothers you, that is a legitimate complaint. It's just something that either becomes a part of the the reward. I would wait until after you beat the Taurus demon to get that, because like I will say I probably was about 6 hours in before I beat the Taurus demon, and like now, or even just like on my second playthrough, that's like a 20-minute hike.
Gotcha.
One thing, at least for me though, I will say that run to get to the Taurus demon, because there's that kind of becomes a mini nexus that you can repeat that fairly often. At least I find annoying simply because of the in particular the archers on the roof, or the guys on the roof throwing fire bombs. Sometimes you can just ignore them, whereas other times they'll decide to like drop down behind you and start attacking you. So at least to me, I think that's a particularly annoying area in terms of requiring you to redo things. Would you agree with that, or?
I'm taking way too long to answer, so the answer is no. I will say once you learn how to deal with those firebomb guys, it eventually. But again, it's all contingent upon you learning these areas. And yes, like that is a trial, and that is a bit of trial and error. So like if you are inherently allergic to that, it is kind of bullshit for me to say no, just power through it. It'll be 16 hours, but it'll be worth it. Even if that is true, that's a lot of buy-in to ask of you.
Sure.
Like out of any particular person. Ben, here's a question for you. What build are you going with? Like what is your class, and like what are you using in terms of like weapons, armor, or magic?
So I cannot remember what my class was, because again, I started this game
a couple of Christmases ago when I gave it to you.
Yeah, that time. Yeah, so I can't even remember when I started it, but I have a longsword and a shield. So that seems to work for me, because I don't know what you would do in this game if you did not have a shield.
Yeah, for sure. And don't be ashamed of that, because you definitely, on your first go through the game, you cling to that shield like it is your lifeline, because it certainly is. Like playing shields up is kind of the only way to go. And going shieldless is like your second or third like challenge run to do.
Gotcha. It's like the Dennis first playthrough.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't particularly, it seems like the most of the consensus is easiest first playthrough is shield and winged spear.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. Either shield and winged spear, because you can attack from behind a spear without lowering your guard, or also easy mode in Dark Souls 1 is sorcery.
Okay. Yeah.
What I will say, like if it does give you fits, Ben, You have two possible outs. There's a source of an item called gold pine resin, which gets you which imbues your right hand weapon with a lightning effect, which is especially good against demons. And you have no way of knowing that aside from looking at wikis, which I would also encourage you do, because there is no shame in that, at least as far as I'm concerned. Additionally, because of that notion that experience kind of compresses time and space in this series, you're going to be able to get back to where you're at probably within a half an hour if you decide to roll up either a sorcerer or a pyromancer.
Just by running around and killing things, or
just literally
I see, starting over.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
Yep. So if you wanted to roll a new character, you would be in a good position to get back to where you're at. That is something I had to do. I initially rolled like a warrior or a knight or something like that, and I was having too much trouble until I realized that maybe a sorcerer is a better first character for me. And the nice thing is, no matter where you start out, that starting class really just determines what you have access to at the beginning. And it gives you a little bit of a stat boost towards like what your build ultimately might be. But like if you decide, okay, I've gathered enough magic, I would rather be melee, you can just totally stat for that.
Okay.
So
technically in one, the pyromancer and the wanderer have higher stats than every other class.
Higher max potential stats.
Right.
But that assumes you're going to be maxing somebody out, which is ridiculous.
I'm just saying that should mean, though, that you effectively level slightly quicker.
No, the curve at which you those first few levels are going to go a lot faster because you start out at a lower soul level.
That's right.
But like literally all that means is you're going to get those first couple points a little bit quicker, but their overall stats are lower.
Right. Yeah.
So, I just wanted to correct. Like, you may be factually correct, but in spirit, not entirely.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's mostly irrelevant.
Yeah. Huh. So, I feel like I've steamrolled this and kind of talked over your complaints. I mean, how do you feel about the Undead Burg? Like, just kind of the experience of fighting those enemies, like the different situations that it puts you in.
So I do like, this was something you mentioned on the podcast too, is the ability to see where you're going to go next, essentially. So I do like the setting in the sense that, there's no mini map. You're very much immersed in the area because there's nothing else to look to about it. And like, for example, like when climbing up to the bridge, how you can look up and see a castle wall above you. And it's like, I'm probably going to go there soon. So I like that. I like the setting of it a lot.
Yeah.
And I guess that is one thing that's nice about the difficulties. It does force you to spend a lot more time in a single area and kind of get to know it better. So I suppose that's probably a nice trade-off for it. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah. Like I love that feeling of getting acquainted with a space and just kind of having it memorized. Like, just occasionally just like the ability to like walk around a childhood house in your mind. Like, I remember this was in the, like, just I don't know, like it almost feels like associating space with nostalgia, or just kind of like it's a weird sense that really rewards exploration and paying attention. And something I really value in games is when it forces you to really stop and notice and take something in, kind of like Valve being so good at getting you to look up. Like there's something inherent to that design or the choices that they made that really make you appreciate the space that they put you in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have similar feelings towards Knights of the Old Republic with the amount of like cross missions that they have in a given planet that make you kind of really go to every nook and cranny of the map.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it also I feel like some of the kind of being able to see different places from where you are, it almost reminds me a little bit of like the juxtaposition of like light and dark in Alan Wake, in that I feel like both of them kind of almost serve to create sort of a dreamlike situation in that particularly in some of the more extreme areas where like you're in, say, like the later on in the Darkroot Garden, and you can look up and see the relatively well lit and etc. like Undeadburg and stuff like that.
Yeah, you can look up and
Does
see the
that
gate
sort of make
descends.
sense?
Yeah,
Say that again. I'm
you
sorry.
can look up and see the gate descends. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, is that? Yeah. Exactly. So like things like that, I feel like it kind of creates a interesting thing, or like the fact that like fire whatever shrine is probably the most overtly safe area in the game, and the fact that right below it is one of the like literally underneath it is one of a very not safe area of the game.
Yeah,
just stuff like.
Did you wander into those areas, Ben?
Which ones?
Either of the bad places you can go from Firelink.
So I know in the spiral staircase you take upwards, you can take it downwards.
Yeah.
So I started walking down, but then I was like, I don't think I want to do that. So I went up because I knew the boss was upwards. And I'm pretty sure if you go downwards, isn't that like the area with a bunch of traps?
No, that's
Okay.
I think we're referring to something different. Like that's
Wait,
a little
do you
bit
have the
later on
key?
the Undead Burg. If you have the master key, you can go downward.
Okay, I see.
And that is there's some pain down there.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Darkroot Basin?
Oh no, I meant Havel.
Havel? Yeah. Yeah, no, we're referring to off of Firelink. You can either go into Skeleton Land or down to Ghostburg.
Okay.
Yeah, Ghostville rather, sorry.
Well, and I think even Skeleton Land is, relatively tame as opposed to like literally pits of like 10-foot deep piles of bones.
I pretty much like both of them have they play with death in a way. So like
Right.
the skeletons, they will keep reviving unless you kill a necromancer. Many of which are not available, like just kind of like hidden behind a fuckload of skeletons. And then the ghosts and
that's what I'm saying in the catacombs.
Yeah, and then the ghosts, like the New Londo ruins, has ghosts that you just can't hit with regular weapons unless you're cursed.
Oh yeah, no, I meant the cemetery versus the catacombs. Like, do you think
you get to the catacombs through the cemetery?
Pretty good to make it to the catacombs accidentally, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Like if you're just wandering down there, the skeletons are a definite turn away sign. Yeah. What do you think of the combat, Ben?
I don't know. I just think it's funny. I have like no idea what you guys. Whatever.
It's fine.
The combat's fine. Again, it's just getting warmed up to it. I imagine that once you get past like, I know I'm not fighting. I guess I'm fighting skeleton-ish people. I don't know what I'm fighting. I guess
the hollows. Yeah. You're fighting hollows.
All right. Yeah. I imagine that the moveset gets more complicated as it goes on, but yeah, I imagine it becomes more important to memorize like moveset and to be able to anticipate what the opponent's move is going to be.
Yeah.
But right now, I don't really need to do that. I just run in and hit them as hard as I can until they're dead. So, so that works for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one good thing about the combat, at least for me, there's a significant degree to which I never felt like I was memorizing movesets in the way I would in, say, like a Devil May Cry. It always felt much more of like a learning how to survive thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like I think, for example, with like the Ents in Darkroot Garden, there's only really one move you need to recognize and get out of the way for.
Or just not put yourself in the position to experience it.
Right. But what I'm saying is,
but that first time it gets you is really memorable.
Right. But what I'm saying is like, I never felt like I was memorizing the moves, so much as I was learning, like, here's this one thing that you need to make sure doesn't happen.
One weird trick.
Similarly, like with the stone, the stone statue guys. You basically just need to learn how to deal with like their slow attack and not get killed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And maybe that changes later on. It becomes more explicitly, but it seems like it trades a bit more on kind of survival skills. Don't attack fencer dudes when they're going all whatever stance. Things like that.
Yeah. Don't attack the Baldur Knights. Yeah. All of this is stuff you're going to be familiar with if you proceed with the game, Ben. So.
I will proceed with caution.
Yeah.
All things you will only do once.
Yeah, the movesets are relatively limited, but there's always a little bit of wonder associated with like, ooh, what is that thing? And what is the new way that this is going to make me think about either the distance that I need to keep from it or kind of the rhythm that I have to adopt or even the actual like strategy of my loadout. Like the nice thing is even though the weapons have different stats and there are, various upgrade paths that I would recommend you defer to a wiki to understand, really the biggest difference between any different pickup you get is the move set, right? So it's a matter of recognizing what the enemies will do, but also knowing like, okay, a curved sword acts differently than a straight sword for this reason, or a bigger sword is, different from a dagger, because of this. And you kind of gravitate towards stuff that kind of like works for the way you like to think about these spaces. And a lot of the combat becomes, very tactical decisions about where you position enemies and how you manage those crowds. So that's an extra level on top of what you're kind of already recognizing.
Yeah. Can you do Morningstar one-handed?
Yes.
You just have to have more strength.
Okay.
You can do anything one-handed, and some of the later, like, what they call them, ultra great swords. Some of those get pretty over the top.
Yeah, but each of them has a strength stat. So the idea is, man, I'm explaining this stuff, and anybody who's listening who knows these rules is going crazy, but it's really important for Ben to know this.
They're getting so antsy for you to talk about Blast from the Past again.
Well, here's the thing about Blast from the Past. They tried their hardest to maintain historical accuracy. However, in terms of anachronisms, after a screen reads fall of 1991, or autumn of 1991, rather, the scene then goes into a bar. In the background, there is a kid playing the Primal Rage arcade game. However, Primal Rage was not released until 1994. Okay, so I gave them what they wanted. Ben, back to you. Back to you, Ben. Look up how to read the stat sheets on your items because they are a fucking nightmare, and you will never be able to like intuit what like scaling or stat requirements are.
Okay.
Specifically in terms of what you can one hand or two hand, you need to meet the listed strength requirement for a weapon in order to one hand it. However, there are many like bigger weapons that you can't one hand until you're really, really high in strength, like crazy, absurdly like endgame high in strength. You can two hand a weapon if you meet, I think it's like either half or 75%. I forget what it is in Dark Souls 1. Forgive me, Jackals.
Yeah, it's 1.5 because I remember it's similar to in D20 system. You get 50% strength.
Yeah, so like the strength requirement listed, it is 1.5 times the strength requirement to double hand it. If that makes any sense. So if a weapon has 15 strength requirement, if you have 10 strength, you would be able to two-hand it by pressing the Y button.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, for sake of argument, you can still attack with anything you want. You'll just be off balance.
Yes, it will take an incredibly long time, and also it will do very little damage.
Right.
Yeah.
Which there's at least one situation where you very well may want to do that, but I'm currently using what was the holy longsword? It's like Sword of Astora or something.
Yeah, the straight sword of Astora. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't meet the stats for that, but I'm using it to kill off skeletons in the catacombs, so like whittling them down with a different weapon, then finish them with that.
Yeah.
So that's not actually a good idea. I'm just doing it.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so I'll be curious to see how you do with Taurus. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any immediate questions you would like to have answered.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. Good.
No, that's it. Yeah.
Was there anything else you played?
That is it. That was enough video games after playing that.
Yeah, that is a lot of games. You guys want to button it up?
Yeah.
Yes.
The credit.
So that was level number 70. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. There's one thing specifically we would ask you to do and like you to do, which is head over to the Facebook page for this show, facebook.com/thelevelpodcast, and leave some congratulations for Dennis and his wife for their new child. We are all very happy for him and look forward to his return. Yeah. Other than that, there's the usual stuff. It's been a minute since we've had a new iTunes review. So if you are hopping on this train fresh and you have not done that, we would really appreciate it. You can also tell any friends you have who like video games about this thing about video games, which they may possibly like. Hey, you like it? That's good enough. And then there's also the Patreon and Amazon links, both of which you can find at Duckfeed.tv/tipjar. I kind of feel comfortable having a short admin section like that.
I'm down with it.
Okay, cool. So let's call it a night. So this has been Kole Ross at Kole Ross on Twitter.
This has been David Moneysmith at Moneysmith777 on Twitter.
I like to think that the silence is just like Dennis's spot, and that's like him talking from afar.
Yeah, we're pouring out some silence for our homie.
Yeah, that's right. And this is Ben Merkel at Merkelizer on Twitter.
Yeah. And if you've been wondering what, just whatever you want to grab, it's 15 Yoink. Womp.
You're in the Yoink zone now.
Oh, no. What happens in the Yoink zone?
I don't know. It costs $15 to get in.
No multiplayer because I didn't find out about Dennis's miracle until shortly before we recorded. So I don't have.
Do you believe in miracles?
How do magnets work? Fuck, I messed that up.